Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Tonight's story unfolds at the intersection of power, fear, and sudden shock, where a system built on intimidation finds itself rattled by an unexpected blow. For decades, Iran's leadership has relied on a carefully maintained image of total control, projecting strength at home and defiance abroad. Yet history shows that even the most rigid structures can tremble when events move faster than propaganda can keep up. This episode explores why this moment is being described by many observers as the nightmare scenario for Iran's supreme leadership. Not because of a single strike or one dramatic headline, but because of what it represents: vulnerability. When a state that claims absolute security is forced into silence, confusion, and damage control, the psychological impact can be greater than any physical loss. To understand the weight of this moment, we need to look at how power in Iran has been enforced. Over the years, a network of security organs has operated with near total impunity. These forces have crushed dissent, silenced protests, and punished critics with speed and brutality. Their reputation alone was meant to deter resistance before it even formed. These enforcers became symbols of fear. Their presence on the streets, their raids at night, and their swift arrests sent a clear message: opposition would not be tolerated. For many ordinary Iranians, these forces were not just uniforms and weapons, but living reminders that the state could reach anyone, anywhere. What makes the current situation so alarming for the leadership is that these very instruments of repression have now been exposed as vulnerable. A surprise operation, carried out with precision and secrecy, reportedly removed key figures long associated with internal crackdowns. Whether through intelligence failures, insider leaks, or external pressure, the result was the same: the aura of invincibility cracked. This was not merely a tactical event, it was symbolic. When those tasked with enforcing fear become targets themselves, the balance shifts. The message that spreads is dangerous for any authoritarian system. Power is not absolute, and protection is not guaranteed. For the supreme leadership, this is a worst-case scenario. Control in Iran has always depended on a mix of ideology and force. If force appears unreliable, ideology alone cannot hold the system together. That is why moments like these trigger intense reactions behind closed doors, even if public statements remain calm and defiant. State media moved quickly to contain the narrative. Official channels emphasized continuity, stability, and resilience. They avoided details, reframed events, and shifted focus to external enemies. This response was predictable, but the silence between the lines spoke volumes. Inside Iran, rumors traveled faster than official explanations. Social media, despite heavy censorship, filled with speculation. People asked how such an operation was possible. They questioned who failed, who knew, and who might be next. In authoritarian systems, unanswered questions can be as destabilizing as confirmed facts. For many citizens who have lived under pressure for years, this moment stirred conflicting emotions. There was fear of escalation and retaliation, but also a quiet sense of vindication. The idea that those responsible for harsh crackdowns could be touched shattered a long-held assumption about untouchable power. Internationally, analysts began reassessing the strength of Iran's internal security apparatus. Intelligence failures, coordination gaps, and overconfidence suddenly came under scrutiny. Allies grew cautious, while adversaries paid close attention, not to celebrate, but to calculate. The leadership's response internally is just as important as what happened externally. Historically, shocks of this kind often lead to purges, reshuffles, and tighter surveillance within the system. When trust erodes at the top, paranoia fills the gap. Loyalists are tested and suspicion becomes policy. Such reactions may restore short-term control, but they also deepen long-term fractures. Officials become more focused on self-preservation than governance. Decision-making slows, fear replaces initiative. In systems built on obedience, this can quietly weaken effectiveness. This is where the nightmare truly lies for the supreme leadership, not in a single loss, but in the chain reaction it sets off. When fear changes sides, even briefly, it alters behavior. People speak differently, act cautiously, and think independently in ways they did not before. The regional context adds another layer. Iran is involved in multiple arenas, projecting influence through allies and proxies. Any sign of internal weakness invites pressure on those fronts. Rivals test boundaries, while partners question reliability. Perception matters as much as capability. At home, economic stress compounds the problem. Years of sanctions, inflation, and unemployment have already strained public patience. When economic hardship combines with visible cracks in authority, frustration can turn into boldness. History shows that such moments are unpredictable. The leadership understands this risk, which is why messaging becomes aggressive after shocks. Strong words, warnings, and symbolic displays of power aim to restore the image of dominance. Yet images are fragile. Once questioned, they require constant reinforcement. Another crucial aspect is generational change. Younger Iranians, raised in a digital world, consume information differently. They are less receptive to official narratives and more likely to compare them with alternative sources. For them, events like this reinforce skepticism rather than fear. From their perspective, the system appears outdated, reactive, and insecure. Each incident that contradicts official claims deepens that perception. Over time, legitimacy erodes not through one dramatic collapse, but through accumulated doubt. For supporters of the current system, this moment is also unsettling. Loyalty often depends on the belief that the leadership is strong enough to protect its own. When that belief weakens, even staunch defenders begin to reassess their positions, quietly and cautiously. It is important to note that uncertainty does not automatically lead to change. Authoritarian systems can endure shocks and adapt. They tighten controls, rewrite rules, and absorb losses. However, each adaptation comes at a cost, usually paid in trust and efficiency. The surprise nature of this event magnifies its impact. Planned confrontations allow regimes to prepare narratives and responses. Sudden developments expose reflexes and weaknesses. The speed of reaction becomes a measure of control. Observers have pointed out that silence from top leadership at critical moments often indicates internal deliberation. Decisions made in those hours shape the next phase. Whether the response leans toward restraint or escalation can redefine trajectories. Escalation carries risks. Heavy-handed responses may suppress dissent temporarily but fuel resentment. Restraint may appear weak to hardliners. Balancing these pressures is one of the most difficult tasks for any centralized authority. As this story continues to unfold, what matters most is not speculation, but consequences. Watch for changes in personnel, shifts in rhetoric, and adjustments in policy. These signals reveal more than speeches ever could. The phrase "a worst nightmare" is not used lightly. For leaders who rely on fear, the true terror is losing the monopoly over it. When fear becomes shared, or even reversed, the foundation of control begins to shake. This does not mean collapse is imminent. Systems often survive longer than expected, but it does mean that a line has been crossed in perception. Once people see vulnerability, they cannot unsee it. In the days ahead, official statements will emphasize strength and unity. Security presence may increase. Arrests may follow. These are signs of anxiety as much as authority. Meanwhile, the public conversation, though constrained, will continue beneath the surface. Private discussions, encrypted messages, and silent observations shape collective mood. Change often begins in these quiet spaces. International reactions will remain cautious. No actor wants uncontrolled escalation, yet all will adjust strategies based on the new assessment of risk and opportunity. In the end, this moment is about more than an operation or a headline. It is about the fragile balance between power and perception. When that balance shifts, even slightly, it sends ripples far beyond the initial event. For the leadership, restoring confidence will require more than words. It will demand structural confidence, internal cohesion, and credibility. Those are harder to manufacture under pressure. For the people, this moment reinforces a lesson learned repeatedly through history. Power is not permanent. It can be challenged, questioned, and tested, sometimes in unexpected ways. As we continue to watch this story develop, remember that the most significant changes are often invisible at first. They unfold slowly, shaped by fear, hope, and calculation. This was not just a shock, it was a signal. And signals, once sent, cannot be taken back. Stay with us as we keep tracking the deeper implications, the quiet shifts, and the long-term consequences of a moment that has already entered the political memory of the region.